The following podcast reflects the views and opinions of the hosts and guests only. They do not reflect the views or opinions of any agency or specific members of an association. At times, colorful language may be used and may be unsuitable for people under the age of 18. Discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody. Steve Graham is president of the PPA. Here with me is
Dan Coyne, director on the executive board of the PPA.
Appreciate all the people that watch the YouTube. Appreciate the people that listen to the podcast. It was pretty fun for us. It was a good time. Coming up on Thanksgiving, we've got a turkey drive coming up that the executive board set up with we're trying to feed 100 needy families. We're going to be pulling that off for Thanksgiving with them. We had some great partners. Albertsons is one of our partnering bodies that's going to supply all the food for us. Station Casinos stepped up and supplied each dinner basket with a $50 gift card for them to buy any of the extra stuff they may need.
Yeah, this is really exciting, Steve. On Friday, there's going to be 100 families up here picking up their gift baskets, turkey, stuffing, the pumpkin pie, rolls, all the fixins, and then the $50 that they can go out and buy everything else. So we're excited for that.
Love the word fixins.
Fixins. It's a Midwest thing.
That's some fixins, some pigeon fixins. You eat pigeons, and maybe in the future we're going to have a day where you cook pigeon, and I'll give it a shot with you. Also want to send a shout out to Todd Corin, CEO from Absolute Exhibits, Inc. They make masks. They kind of commissioned a PPA mask for us. Good stuff, good quality, very breathable. Looks good on the face, accentuates the eyes very well. It's good stuff. I look beautiful in it as usual, much like the crew that sent me a men's bikini brief for when I go to the beach. I pull both of those off, mask and bikini brief.
Yeah, and I like them as well.
Yeah, good solid stuff. So what do we got in store today? We'll get this podcast going. All right, so if that interview with Frank didn't get you jazzed up to go out and join a gym, get you ready to go train, get you to join us in disliking John Abel because he messed up the fact that he was supposed to eat a pocky chip, the fact that Frank was going to choke him out, and then he was willing to just kick him in the leg. We appreciate it. I think it was a really good, informative segment. A lot of good questions, a lot of good positions from a guy like Frank who has built his life around controlling people. And that's really what we do in law enforcement is controlling suspects, right?
Absolutely. And you gave a lot of great advice. I mean, whether you're just starting out on the career or you're nearing your end, the things you talked about can really help you.
And age isn't a factor. You can make every excuse you want, but you can still go into a gym. You can still go and learn something new. If you're out there doing the job where there's a good chance you're going to fight, you should probably learn how to fight instead of thinking you know. And then when that time comes, thinking the magic switch is just going to flip. It doesn't happen.
Absolutely, and you got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Another shout out. We gave it to him before, but Black Rifle Coffee Company, our crew. Now we've gone from regular black coffee, and Dan talked about he picked these up after he hit the lotto in Arizona.
Yeah, I felt really generous, so I went ahead and bought all of them that were at I believe it was Fabulous Freddy's, as well as a few other Circle K's in town have them. I think it tastes great. Frank thought it tastes great. America thinks it tastes great. So thank you, Black Rifle Coffee. It's 200 milligrams of caffeine. It'll keep you going on the job. So if you guys are riding around in your patrol cars, go ahead and stop by Circle K and get some.
Support those that are supporting us, right? Product placement. Got to keep it out. That's good. It's like, that's pretty good. All right, let's talk about what we got going on across the country. LAPD chief response to union survey. 90% of their cops felt unsupported. Dan.
Yeah, 90%. So the morale's down at LAPD with all the social unrest going on, the riots. It was clear that LAPD and their command staff didn't have a plan, and it showed in the news and it shows on the morale of everyday officers. So the union sent it out, came back 90%, did not support them, and this is something that I think. Our command staff in Vegas did really well. They said, hey, we're going to let people peacefully protest. We're going to support that. But if they're breaking the law, if they're hurting people or they're hurting cops, we're going to take them to jail. And I think, that's one of the reasons why we don't have that problem out here is because of the strong leadership by our sheriff.
Yeah, we had the same issues other places had. We had riots, we had protests pop up, and we had some really good leadership from the top down. Shout out to Brett Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Brett Zimmerman, the first nights of the violent riots, he was out there front and center.
I saw him on the news. He's running in, grabbing people.
Yeah, man. We had officers telling us, hey, there's an assistant sheriff. He described him and kind of saying, yeah, this guy was out front, and he told us, hey, we can't take any nonsense from people. We're not going to get heavy-handed. We're not going to do stupid things. But when the time comes to keep ourselves safe, he said, you keep yourself safe and you go home. So, shout out to our executive staff about how they took care of business there. They still allowed people to do their peaceful protest, but once the switch turned to time to disassemble, they let our folks do their job, and I think that's why in the end we kind of weren't maybe quite as bad as other places. Of course, we had Officer Shea shot, but that was, such an errant thing from somebody who was so far away from where the action was actually taking place that, who knows if it's directly related to the protesting down there.
Yeah, I agree, and like I said, good job again.
All right, so next topic we got is one that with the holidays coming, how you deal with, and it segues from training too. Frank talked about it. You're having a bad day, go into a gym, get a workout in, go out for a run, get a roll in, hit a bag, do whatever. So Dan wanted to talk about some of the stresses that cops deal with that they have to pay attention to make sure that they have a long and lengthy career. And so we'll get to that this report is from Police One.
Yeah, it was on Police One, and I saw this up, and it's the title of the story is 5 Stresses Cops Deal With That Non-Cops Should Know About. And, there's 5 listed, and I agree with some. And I think some other people don't have that issue. So I'd like to go through them and see what your thoughts and my thoughts are on it. There's number 1 is the daily preparation for battle. And it's people die every day, accidents happen. In rare instances, tragedy unexpectedly takes the lives of thousands. However, most occupations generally assume they will go to work and come home at the end of the day. Being a police officer requires preparation for death daily. Officers put on body armor, carry guns for a reason. They are ready for the fight, and unfortunately, not every warrior comes home. Cops are at war out there, and I agree with that, but it was something that I never struggled with going to work. This is something I never stressed about. I don't think I ever left home and didn't think I was going to come home at the end of the night. So I know this is true. We have cops that are killed and attacked in the line of duty, but I just don't think I ever stress about it. What do you think, Steve?
You stress over the things you're not prepared for, right? If you're not out there training, if you're not out there shooting your gun and getting proficient, if you're not learning policy, if you're not reading state law and case law about charges to charge people with, if you are going out there totally unprepared, yeah, you should be stressed. Get stressed about the environment you're in because you don't know what you're doing. When you prepare for it, our police department does a good job. We have a very long academy. They put a lot of stuff in there. There's continuing education training for our folks. Could be more, but there is some stuff you have to take on your own. You should go out, like I said, talked about it before, go out to a gym, go learn how to defend yourself. We're not always going to be able to shoot people, and you may not always have access, as we saw in the video, to pull your baton out or your taser or OC. You may have to go hand-to-hand for a little bit. But if you prepare for it, then the stress should be minimal, I would think.
I think we're on the same page with that. So the second one is the cop attitude stays. Many police officers aren't warned about the change that will take place in them from the job. The cop attitude cannot be left at the office either. The incidents cops experience will change them on duty and off. They will not sit with their backs to the doors or people. They will often not carry on a conversation by looking someone in the eye because they aren't looking at every person coming in. I think I agree with the cop attitude. We all change. You go out to a concert or sporting event, you're always eyeballing people. You go to a restaurant, you see some shady people come in. I think that's something we all carry around with us.
You have to, right? You can't be, what do we call it here, conditioned brown, your head up your ass. You gotta always be mindful of things that could happen. Not overly hyper vigilant, I don't think. You can't worry that, every person that walks through the door could be the next killer, 8-year-old girl coming in to get a Happy Meal. Well, she could actually be just a little person and be armed to the teeth. But where I came out of in narcotics, you actually had to kind of beat that cop attitude out of you. We had a couple guys in there. One guy's a sergeant now, and they couldn't cut it there. They couldn't get out of the rigid look and the I'm a cop feel and that. And to work in that world, you had to, and it was tough. And but it definitely does change you. The things you see change you. You know.
Yeah, and I think maybe you're out with your family, and you're looking around for people that you may have arrested or been in your module. If you're a corrections officer, I think that really sticks with you as well.
I have actually at the one of our local malls, was out when I was doing some UC work, saw from about 40 feet away a guy that I was routinely buying from, and I'm there with my family, and right away my wife always knew if I just broke away from you guys and didn't say a word, she knew that she needed to pull the kids into a store, and there was something going on. And sure enough, I broke away, she did, he came up, Steve, hey man, we had our little conversation and pressed on. But yeah, you have to be ready for that type of stuff to potentially happen, as well as we talk a lot about too is taking care of yourself, your mental strain. This job, I tell kids in the academy still, there's things that will stick with you. There's things you'll see on this job that you wish you never did. When Annabelle, we talked about in the segment with Frank, when Annabelle was 2, I went to a SIDS call, a little Hispanic girl. Still remember what the little girl was wearing: white button-up shirt, blue denim skirt type thing, black shoes. Died of SIDS, and I met up with the family at UMC and saw the doctors working this poor little girl, trying to revive her, and it wasn't happening. And I called my wife there and just told her to go check on Annabelle at the time, and she went and checked. She's like, "What's wrong?" So I told her, and that's something that was Annabelle's now 15, 13 years ago, that I will never forget as long as I live. And in this day and age, cops need to be strong enough to realize you don't have to be the tough guy always and go talk to somebody. There's counselors out there, there's people you can go talk to, but you shouldn't. We've seen in the past, you come from Ohio, families do this job.
Great state.
The great state of Ohio. But a lot of cops, older cops, resorted to drinking and stuff like that to deal with things, rather than, hey, let me actually go talk to someone and see if this can help, because it can. But you have to, you have to take care of the cop attitude, but also realize you're still a human.
And the stuff that sticks with you, that kind of segues into number 4, the front row seat to despair. So we'll skip 3. We agree on number 2. Number 4, the front row seat to despair, everything you see and the stuff that sticks with you. When I was young on the job, I didn't have a family. And stuff didn't really bother me at the time, but once I had kids, I started remembering stuff, and it was mostly when kids were the victims. So I definitely think that's a real stressor.
Well, and worrying too, like when you're single, you be the first one running into a door. Yep. You didn't care. You were like, listen, I'm just going to go in there and do it. Now fast forward and go, okay, you got 3 kids and a wife that if you don't make it out of that doorway, there's people that have counted on you that now will not be able to. And so those added pressures go into what you're doing. And yeah, you're right. The despair aspect of it. And, we look at number 3. I actually kind of like number 3, life in a fishbowl.
Yeah.
Listen, if you don't like the fact that we're held to a higher standard in this profession, don't join it. We are held to a higher standard. You shouldn't be out doing dumb stuff. And I'm talking about really dumb stuff, committing crimes, using dope, doing that. If that's the life you wanted, don't join up.
And that's where we both agree, the really dumb stuff. However, I would disagree with us losing our First Amendment, not having our rights of opinions, Facebooks where the department wants to hold you to a higher standard for offending somebody on your time off. I think that's what really gets to people. Yeah, I think we would all agree with the crime aspect of it, Steve. So number 5, riding the incident roller coaster. At any point in a tour of duty, an officer can move from trying to eat lunch to driving at high speed, running after a suspect, pointing a firearm at someone, and finding themselves having to make life or death decisions. Maybe an officer went from a parking complaint to a child hit by a car, and then back to someone getting a ticket for shoplifting. You get the idea. I know this one didn't really affect me. I kind of like the action. So what do you think on that?
So our department at LVMPD does a great job with this. We used to, let's say there was an officer-involved shooting. I'm there, I pull the trigger, I shoot a subject, I get put on leave, and I've got to go talk to the shrink. The people around me, they used to just say, well, just go back to work and hit your calls. Now our department's doing a little better job saying, listen, depending on the proximity to the incident, what you saw, how you feel, we may put you on leave as well and have you go talk to the doc just to make sure you're okay with what happened there and how you deal with it. And you're right. We look at calls. John Abel and Mike Ramirez were involved in a call that was just a fraud call, passing a bad check, I think it was, at a Walmart.
Yeah. And
it escalates into a straight-up OIS. Mike gets shot. And so, that roller coaster can change in 2 seconds from low-level petty larceny in custody to the worst scenario that we could be a part of, which is having to use our firearm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are and those things get compounded too at this time of year. The stressors of work compounded with the stressors of regular life, buying presents for your kids, dealing with the kids are now having to stay home from school. There's so many other things that, again, as we talk about how you deal with things in life, you should have outlets, whether it's sports, whether it's family, whether it's hobbies, whether it's crafting. We have someone on our board of directors that's a phenomenal crafter. Oh,
great artist.
We're going to introduce a crafting with Heidi Christmas segment. She wants to do it. We'll do some ornaments or something for people, but
it's going to be huge,
very huge. But it is true. You have to deal with. You can't just keep eating this stuff. You can't turn to drinking, or any other ways to cope with.
I mean, there's certain healthy drinks that you can do, like pineapple margaritas. If it's grilled, pineapple, I think it's manly.
I think only if it's grilled. If it's not grilled, it's not too tough of a drink.
I agree. All right, now what do we have next up here? Oh, so usually we have parties up here. Oktoberfest we had last year, and we didn't do it this year because of COVID. And at last year's Oktoberfest, Pete Bazanski, he won the hot dog eating competition, and this guy thinks he can hold on to the belt for another year without being challenged just because we skipped Oktoberfest. I think it's bullshit. I say we call Pete up, challenge him, and maybe get a hot dog eating competition on our next podcast. What do you think, Steve?
So, Pete's a big guy, lost a lot of weight, looks great. But, the Oktoberfest, he really put down the hot dogs, and he won if you can get a shot of the boot drinking beer contest. He drank that before other people were even halfway through their glass, and then later said, okay, that's good. I can keep eating or do whatever. But you believe you can take him.
Pete's from Ohio, so he's an athlete. However, he's getting old, and I'm also from the great state of Ohio. So I won a hot dog eating competition on the Strip as well. From champion to champion, we have to stay ready, and I think I'm in a position to challenge him. So let's call him up.
We'll see if he answers.
Yeah.
If he knows it's you, he'd probably be scared won't answer.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think you can hear the fear in the ring.
Silence.
Yeah, like right now he's staring at the phone like I'm not answering it. I know what's going to happen. This skinny guy is going to destroy me. I got to keep this belt.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic
He's scared.
voice
We're going to get a hold of him. We're going to have him on the next episode. You better be ready because I'm going to start my training.
Yeah. What kind of training do you do? Or do you not want to give away for the potential for Pete to train?
Well, I say we're on a fair and equal playing field. So what you want to do is you want to drink a lot of water. So several gallons a day to stretch out your stomach, and then you can flush it, as well as a lot of watermelon and fibrous fruits. Stretch out your stomach.
Fibrous fruits.
Yes, that's the secret. That's how I won the last one. All the proceeds went to charity, but I'm hoping the PPA puts up a big prize and I can profit a little bit off this one. Maybe a golden belt.
This podcast has gone from MMA training and how to get to where you need to be with a former world heavyweight champ to fibrous fruits to stretch your stomach so you can eat as many hot dogs as you can in 5 minutes. Are we going 5?
We're going to do 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
5 minutes.
All right.
It's a sport, though. It's a true sport.
I don't know about that. I think a sport involves the exertion of cardiovascular, and
it's hard to breathe when you're eating all those hot dogs.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But I still don't think you expend any real energy. So what do we have today? We had Frank on. We talked about some of the stressors, some of the things that people need to think about. We talked about the need to train. We talked about hot dogs. We talked about the fact that John Abel has let us down already in just this 1 week between not doing the Pocky Chip Challenge, not taking Frank Mir up and letting him choke him out, and not taking a leg kick from Frank Mir. I'm pretty sure
he's failing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the next podcast I'm just going to bring in a lion and have it eat him. You have to do something. He's really screwed us so far. But
and if anybody's interested in a spot on the e-board, if Abel messes up one more time,
yeah. So we appreciate anybody that's that tuned into the podcast, that's watching it. If you like it, same thing. Still shoot us questions. We will always put out what our next one's going to be about. If we have a special guest for questions, anything on your end, I think we do have. We have a couple shout outs. On our last episode, we talked about the good cop or good brass, bad supervisor segment, and we didn't know if we would get all kinds of people saying, hey, my bosses, my staff stinks, blah, blah, blah. Quite the contrary. Everything we got was positive. So, Dan, if you want to take the one from the first officer, I'll take the second one.
Yeah, the first officer, we're going to remain anonymous. There are some great sergeants that deserve shout-outs. Sergeant Coleman and Favela are fantastic. They always have their officers back. They go 100% all the time. They're very family-oriented. I worked for both those officers on overtime spots in the jail, and I'd have to say this is 100% correct. Great sergeants, and thank you for making it a good spot to work for your officers.
From the PO side, we got Sergeant Paul Wojcik nominated. The officer actually put the pronunciation of how to say it. Paul was one of our board members, actually, before he promoted, and typically folks that are on our board make out great supervisors. But just said from Summerlin Area Command, great bosses. He was a sergeant for this officer in Bolton Area Command. He was also an instructor at the academy. Said at the academy he was an absolute terror. No one struck fear into the hearts of fresh or almost finished recruits like Sergeant Wojcik could. You might think that was just a mean dude. If you ever had the chance to work for him, you'd realize that is just his commitment to his role in making everyone better than they started. As a sergeant, he takes the time to personally know you, learn about you, figure out how to help you be the best cop you can be. He's always concerned about the morale and well-being of his troops, their development and futures, and his top priority is safety. We like seeing the positives. If we can highlight far more positives than negatives, it makes our job easier.
Yeah. I also have one Assistant Sheriff Zimmerman. Recently we had an issue where it was a kind of a clerical error. An officer put his time in so he can sell back 40 hours to pay for Christmas presents for his kids. Payroll didn't receive it in time. We went through the management over in payroll side. Nobody wanted to help this guy. We reached out to Assistant Sheriff Zimmerman. He stepped up. He made sure the problem was corrected and saved Christmas for this officer and his family. So thank you.
It wasn't the Zimmerman who stole Christmas. It was the Zimmerman who saved Christmas. Great movie for a follow-up. So I think that's all we've got for this episode. Like I said, if you have any bosses to talk about, shoot them to us. Have any things, maybe topics you want us to cover, shoot them to us. Anything across the country, anything you need like that.
Would you like to do segment 7?
Oh, man, I was past it with my guys.
All right, so we have a question from someone from the jail. Is the jail getting rid of ACA in 2021 going to eventually get rid of parity pay? So if anybody doesn't know, ACA, it's American Correctional Association. We participate in what they do right now. We usually score number 1 out of all the jails involved. And I guess we pay them a lot of money. So as a cost-cutting measure, they're going to get rid of that. I'd say, personally, I would agree that this is a good idea to get rid of them. I don't know what they really do for us other than giving us a good rating and us paying them money. It has absolutely nothing to do with pay parity. In fact, the county commissioners tried to take that away. PPA fought it. They won it there. And then the department tried to take it away in the last contract negotiations. PPA, again, fought it. We won it there. And the ACA was never brought up as a reason why they should keep pay parity. In fact, I think the number 1 issue was the department was saying that corrections officers do not have arrest powers and do not make arrests and do not do investigations, and we proved them wrong. Thousands of crimes are committed in the jail every year. violent felonies, dope charges, serious crimes, and the corrections officers do a great job of arresting people and doing the investigations. So in the end, that was one of the reasons why we kept the pay parity.
All right. The next question was about the judges during the elections. What are our feelings about those that won and those that lost? Of all of our candidates that we supported them for a specific reason. There were a lot of races that we didn't endorse in just because sometimes you just stay out and neither side is bad, neither side is good. You just kind of take the position that, you guys figure it out. And when it's all said and done, we will support and get behind whoever won if they're pro-law enforcement. Again, these are some of the questions we ask judges when they come in for endorsements. When a graveyard cop comes into your courtroom and they just got off shift and they still got to go back, do you move the cases up in the calendar so this officer can go home and get the rest they need to go back out and work? Those are some of the big ones. We get some emails from officers that'll tell us how good a judge is, how bad a judge is. It just depends. Can you keep that up? Yeah. My iPad died, so it actually kind of helps me out. But we're very happy that Doug Herndon won his race on the Supreme Court. That was a contentious one. Ozzie Fumo was running against him. Nothing against Ozzie. Ozzie was helpful to us up in the legislature, certain points, but Doug Herndon is going to be pro law and order, and that's where we try to focus ourselves, was pro law and order. We are very, very disheartened that Judge Bill Kephart did not win his race. Bill Kephart has been an absolute friend and a rock to law enforcement, to the community. He's been in this town forever. That was one that was really really sucked.
It was surprising. A lot of the seats went that way, where we hey, these are seasoned, experienced judges who've been in the game for a while, and somebody comes out of the blue with really no experience at all, and they flip the seat. So that was something that was different this election cycle.
Judge Scotty was another one. We wanted to see Judge Scotty prevail, and at the end of the day, it's going out and voting. And if people aren't voting for the people that we're endorsing, but know that you should have seen our endorsement process for who we're picking has changed. We've had, from our last podcast, the conversations with the folks that are pro-law and order. They get it. Especially on the bench, we've got to put people there that are pro-law and order, pro-citizens.
Absolutely.
And still fair to the defendants. We're not asking for people to just forget about rights and due process, but we want them to always treat our officers with the utmost respect and treat the law with the utmost respect.
So we got a question from Officer Sean Belcher. Maybe a cooking coin segment is in order, maybe with pigeons. So I think we could do that. First, I'm going to have to find some locally sourced free-range pigeons, good quality, and if I can get a hold of some, we could do that after the hot dog eating competition. And if you'd be up for that, Steve, as my official taste tester.
You know what? Because you were a chef before, I'm willing to try pigeon. I can't believe I'm even saying that, but I'm willing to give it a shot, as long as it's a pro-law and order pigeon.
And it's grilled.
Don't bring us some pigeon that doesn't like the cops. I need pigeon that's pro-cop.
All right.
You give me a pro-cop pigeon, we'll eat that pigeon leg all day. So.
Also, I'd like to give a big shout-out to the LVRJ. They did a great job on their last article. Investigative reporter found out that 2,500 officers were actually quarantined. And of those 2,500 that were quarantined, 479 of them tested positive for COVID. That means 2,021 officers who were quarantined did not test positive for COVID-19. Judging from those numbers, health and safety is getting it wrong about 80% of the time. Again, we just want our officers to who are healthy and non-symptomatic to hit the streets, go back to work, and fight crime.
Yeah. It's the having cops on the street matters. Having people out there protecting people matters. And, the COVID fear, while some people have their thoughts about COVID, I have my own personal thoughts about COVID. I think the more you're out there working out, keeping yourself healthy, getting in shape, less it's going to affect you. But, we're still going through the negotiating process quasi with the department. We have a case that we're filing in EMRB, or it's already filed, David? Is that EMRB filed already? About the video that went out by Chief McMahill about threatening with discipline if you come to work sick, if you come to work and get others quarantined. There's a whole litany of things on that we have to deal with. And then the other portion on being forced to quarantine because of an off-duty exposure is probably going to go the route of arbitration. I don't think they've had some new exposures, and I don't think we're going to end up solving that one through talks. So,
and I think we feel good about that. I think the arbitrator is going to see that we have numbers to support our stance, and we have the ACA critical infrastructure guidelines that we want to follow. So it's reasonable.
So yeah, closing thoughts again with the holidays. If you could do good for someone, do good for someone. Whether it's a bad guy, whether it's a partner, family member, if you can at this time of year with everything everyone's been through with COVID. I know everyone's hoping 2020 can just end, but it's do something nice for somebody. If you got a chance, if you come up here to the PPA and you need something, let us know. We're very, very excited. We're going to continue that turkey giveaway into Christmas. We're hoping to up our participation by community members. We're at 100 now for Thanksgiving. I'd love to see us at 300 families for Christmas time. So if you know a business, if you are a business, you want to get involved with us, go ahead and let us know. Send us an email to podcast@lvppa.com. That is up. And with that, happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
See you next time.
111, 110.